Hey guys, this is Garrett Fuller with MMORPG. I'm here with David Noonan. He's the head writer on TERA, the Exiled Realm of Arborea. I got that right, didn't I? TERA is an awesome MMO. It's been doing really well on the site, and it's a standard classic MMO style. We love that you guys did that with En Masse. But Dave is really being the writer. He's going to tell us about the world and kind of everything you're seeing and some of the styles and influences in the game. So I guess it's kind of wide open, but talk about maybe the influence that you had in building this game and some of the choices you guys made.
I think one of the neat things about TERA is that it's designed from the story-wise from the ground up as a global game, and so we are stealing mythology from everywhere. I mean, there's a strong Greco-Roman element to it. I mean, we're using some Eastern mythology as well, and we're mixing it all up into this amazing stew so that it would be difficult to say, oh, that guy's like Odysseus, or I mean, if we've done our job right, it's so mixed up that you can't spot the parallels anymore. But we draw our inspirations from everywhere, and that's kind of a fun stew to work with. I mean, the game has 2 million words or something like that in it, and that's what keeps me awake at night.
Yeah.
But with that much room to work with, that's the beauty of an MMO, is you can really get deeply immersive in the world, and then players can experience as much of that as they want. They can delve as deeply as they like. As you saw, TERA is such an action MMO that it's interesting. You're shifting gears a lot in the game. You're very much living in the moment when you're doing battle, and then when you get back to town and talk to the NPCs, you discover, oh wow, there's this story here as well.
Yeah.
And you can sort of choose your own level of involvement with that, and I think that's one of the neat things about the game.
It's always good to have layers of depth in the game, I think too. Now, I mean, some of the landscape, but I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the races and some of their stories.
Sure.
You guys have awesome looking races. I just said that to you before we got on camera. I said, man, the guy with the horns, he's awesome. And so talk a little bit about your choices. The one big stone kind of guy. I mean, how did you come up with these ideas? What goes into the creation of these types of things?
Well, we have 6-player races in TERA, and they do run the gamut all the way from some sort of mischievous forest spirits that look like animals, the Papori, to the huge, 8-foot tall, they're descendants of giants, actually, the Baraka, and they're very stony and metal looking. Then we also have the Amani, who were sort of vaguely dragon-like looking, and they used to be the slaves to the giants, but they won their freedom shortly before the game starts, and now they're sort of eager to prove themselves as a free people. Right. And then we have humans, and our humans, again, that's someplace where East meets West art-wise. Our humans tend to look more like linebackers. I mean, it's not a very thin Asian human at all. These guys look like Brian Urlacher.
It's true.
And then we have our high elves, which the take we have on those is they are very political creatures and very much scheming and intrigue, and so they're tons of fun to write quests for because they're always double-crossing each other. That's a delight.
Right.
And then lastly, we have the Castanics, and they're sort of our kind of vaguely gypsy-like race, kind of dark, a little cruel, and always kind of looking to make a deal.
Cool.
And that's just the 6-player races, and then we have all kinds of other. We have a whole world with hundreds of different kinds of monsters, some friendly, some not, and that run all the way from tiny little scads of forest spirits that attack you by the dozen to huge monsters that are like Godzilla size, and that's one of the neat things about working on TERA is that we don't have a lot of traditional goblins and orcs and things like that. Almost every mob has some kind of like a 90-degree spin on it, something that makes it weird or kind of intriguing looking, and that's why I'm happy when I show up at my desk, because I get to open up the art folder and see what they made for me today.
It's really interesting to hear you say that, because that's one of the things that I wanted to point out was we were fighting a bunch of we fought the one boss monster, we fought the giant. You can't really call them crabs because there's a little guy in there, but they're like a crab monster. There's a lot of stuff in here. You can't really put your finger on it. It is almost, I would say, original. So, and what's it like for you as a writer? I mean, you look at it and go, wow, I got to come up, look, this is this art design I love. What's the story behind this thing? And how does that work for you?
Well, fortunately, I don't do it all myself. I have a staff of 9 writers back in Seattle, and when we get concept art, we stick it up on the wall and get a whiteboard ready and say, okay, somebody explain these crabs to me. What are some stories we could tell with these guys? And we go through that for all of the hundreds of monsters in the game.
Awesome.
And eventually it all winds up in some big cohesive story if we do our jobs right.
That's cool. So now let me ask you something. In terms of gameplay and for a player, is there a story arc for your character? Is there a clear delineation of you're going to become this hero and kind of thing? So
there is a big through line, but there are lots of detours along the way.
Yeah.
But you will start the game in the opening cinematic. It shows that this island in the middle of the ocean just erupts out of the water one day, and but it already has ruins on it, and nobody knows what the deal is there. So you're part of the expedition to discover why this island emerged out of nowhere. And so you'll spend the first few hours of gameplay involved in that mystery, and as you solve that mystery, you prove yourself, and then that starts a whole journey. You discover there's a sinister conspiracy involved, and you wind up working your way through 3 continents on your journey through the level cap, and there's all sorts of scheming and double crossing, and you'll end the game, you'll reach the level cap, and you'll be part of a big Stalingrad-style battle between the 6 races the 6 playable races and the Argons, who are these sort of metallic creatures that want to terraform the whole globe and just steamroller everything.
Right.
And there's a lot of big epic battle scenes that are built into the endgame content, where you will be right on the front lines, going from trench to trench and going underground and taking the fight to them in their lair.
Awesome. It sounds great. I want to ask you to kind of sum up your thoughts. And I mean, our audience is very hardcore players. They've seen everything. They know everything. What's something that you would say to them in terms of setting TERA apart from? I mean, already I think it goes beyond the traditional MMO. I think there's a lot of really cool elements to the game. The story, the art styles, the gameplay. The gameplay. We haven't talked about the gameplay, but the gameplay is super fast. We had a lot of fun. What's your overall impression that you would say to a player? Be like, look, we have this, and this, and this is the story I want to tell.
I think as much as I'd like to say that it's the deep story, really in your first few hours of gameplay, what really hits you with TERA is that you're at the intersection of an action game on the one hand, which is very much living in the moment, and then on the other hand, it's a very deep, immersive MMO world. So we are right at that intersection, and it's the action game that you get to play with 1,000 of your closest friends.
Yeah. It's a great way to put it. Dave, I can't thank you enough for taking time.
Hey, no problem at all.
The video is going to be awesome. And this is TERA. We'll see you guys later. We're at E3.